you must have some thoughts about how the government ought to be managed, having been on the council for so long. What about something like a city administrator? Would you see a city administrator in a Bowser administration? Would you see the same kind of composition of deputy mayors, or would you change that around in any way? Do we need a deputy mayor for public safety? Should the chief of police and the fire chief report directly to the mayor? What are your thoughts on some of these things?
No, of course, I've been thinking about that a lot. And as sitting on the council, you do have a bird's eye view of all the directors and how the government is organized. And my approach is to really start to think long and hard about those top positions. My very first meeting was with the Chancellor of Schools. I had a very good conversation with Chief Kathy Lanier this morning, and I will be sitting down with her very soon as well. I think the city administrator, of course, is very important. I will give my city administrator budget responsibility as well. I think that's important. Now, the only change so far that I have suggested to the complement of deputy mayors is to add one, and that would be a deputy mayor for the east of the river. That's really going to help me coordinate strategies with schools, economic development, and workforce and job issues.
We got a tweet from I Am Goff who says, would you keep Alan Liu if elected, or do you have another person in mind for your administration?
I really haven't made those that level of personnel decision.
And it's kind of unfair as a report. I think it's unfair when we ask, we'll start a whole list. Will you keep this person?
Right.
Will you keep that? And you're entitled. Whoever wins,
Well,
should
that
you
was
win?
what I Am Goff
I know,
asked.
but
didn't
he
ask
moved,
that.
didn't he? Didn't he move out west? I think he moved out west or something.
Did you?
I don't mind being unfair with that kind of question. Will you keep the director of the Department of Youth and Rehabilitation Services? As you know, there's a very serious problem in developing in Ward 4 on Taylor Street with the new halfway house they've put in there for young juvenile offenders. They've had serious incidents already with this facility. You were there at a meeting in the community where the DHS director was there. I don't think he performed necessarily well. He didn't seem to be responsive. Would you keep him?
Well, again, I haven't made I haven't made any appointments, okay? And until we win the election in November, we won't be making any appointments.
Are you in danger of people treating like that you are, in fact, going to be the mayor? I know you want to do that in terms of being positive about winning, but you can hear the tone of some of the questions that people are going to treat you like that, and you're going to be asked about everything as if you're going to be the next mayor. And that could create a problem for you around the voters. Say you'll take it for granted.
I'm not taking anything for granted, and we're going to campaign just as hard as we have for the last year.
You expect better behavior from the bureaucracy now that they know they have a new boss coming?
Well, we expect them to be responsive. Yes.
We got a tweet from Mr. Goat who says, Muriel Bowser tried to keep group homes out of Ward 4. Will her discriminatory approach apply to all of Washington, D.C.?
No, I don't. We're not going to discriminate against anybody. And actually what we've done in our ward, and we would apply the same principles to all 8 wards as mayor, is to make sure that people's fair housing rights are protected, and that neighborhoods have some confidence that the government is going to treat them fairly.
On homeless issues, you've said, what would you do if you were the mayor? Right now, not a long-term strategy to put people in permanent housing, but right now the current mayor tried to put people in recreation centers and out in suburban motels. Now, you've been critical of the mayor's policies, but if you were mayor now playing that role, what would you do differently?
Well, I think that we've made some mistakes in kind of retreating from our housing first model, which was introduced in the district when Adrian Fenty was mayor.
That's the first time his name has been mentioned.
Yes.
Never heard of it.
Which
By
really,
anybody here.
which gets the city away from the shelter for a night approach and make sure that we are evaluating people and getting them into permanent supportive housing. And I think we know the program is successful. It's not cheap, but it is successful because people who have been chronically homeless, and when chronically homeless people come to the government with a whole plethora of issues that need to be serviced, and they will never get on top of those issues if they're going from shelter to shelter. shelter.
On the council, you have been among those who are skeptical of a proposal to provide some funds for the construction of a new DC United Stadium in Southwest Washington and do that complicated land swap deal for the stadium site, which would involve giving up the Reeves Center at 14th and U. This would seem like one of the big-ticket items Mayor Gray would like to happen before he is out of office. How do you plan to engage on this issue?
Well, I've been engaged on the issue. I've had conversations with Alan Liu, who is spearheading the negotiations for the mayor for many months. We expected to get a package at the council, I think in December or January. Here it is, April. We haven't gotten it. So it may not be all done. Now, I will tell you what my skepticism is. It's about a land swap. I'm not skeptical about big cities like ours or medium cities, however you describe it, having great sports. I'm going to go when I leave here to help the Nationals celebrate their opening day. But I think what every taxpayer and resident of the District of Columbia wants to make sure is that we're getting a good deal and that we're not giving away the Reeves Center. So that deal has to be right. So I'm not sure at this point why the council hasn't gotten it. I don't know if they were waiting for the election to be over or if they're still negotiating. But that's going to be my direction. Please send us something that we can work with.
And if the football team were to fit financially and location-wise at RFK, would you be, the last three mayors, the current mayor and the previous two, were inclined to welcome the team back if there was financially doable for the city? Would you like to see the football team back in the city?
I would.
With the same name?
I think the football team is going to have to change the name to come back to Washington.
Here is Geraldo in Washington, D.C. Geraldo, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Good afternoon, Kojo. How are you?
I'm well.
I'd like to congratulate Mrs. Bowser for winning.
Thank you.
Kojo, I have a question. I am a taxi cab driver in Washington, D.C. for more than 20 years. Also, I'm a D.C. resident, too. And about a little bit over 2 years ago, I went to have a heart surgery. And then what I did, I gave my license plate back for my taxi cab, my own car, to the motor vehicle, and I got a private license. In other words, I changed my taxi cab in a private car.
Yes.
So I went to have the surgery. When I left the hospital, a few months after, I started renting a taxi cab. When I felt that I could get my car back, I went back to the taxi cab commission.
Now you found you cannot use your own car anymore?
Yeah, I cannot get my car anymore. I'm a 65 years old man. I've been driving a taxi cab in D.C. for more than 20 years. They're not putting a new taxi cab driver on the street. I've been slaving here for like 10, 12 hours.
Allow me to ask Muriel Bowser if she understands that problem. And Tom Sherwood, you wanted to say?
Well, there's been a tremendous effort to try to bring the taxi cab industry into the 20th century, but a lot of cab drivers feel they've been mistreated.
Right.
Into the 21st century.
21st, 22nd.
Don't that suggest that they're still in the 19th century?
I'm still waiting for a cab in the last one.
Right. I talk about cabs every time I come to your show. And I think that part of the question here and what we hear across the city is not just about cabs, but transportation. So we know in this city, in the next 25 years, we're going to have, we'll be a city of over 800,000 people again. And to get ready for that type of explosive growth, and for all of us who already are here to enjoy a great quality of life, we're going to have a lot of innovation in the area of transportation.
You've just motivated Tom and Colby and I to hang around to see that 800,000.
We just want to talk about 800,000. Let's talk about one person who's not here now, Alicia Rudd. What do you know about the situation over there with the family? There was a story yesterday, I think.
Just to be clear for people, this is the missing 8-year-old girl.
The missing 8-year-old girl. Saw a story the other day that showed the mother with a wad of $50 bills with her boyfriend. Large sums of cash.
I don't know.
So the photo, and she's in a shelter. She's in a shelter. Has the council been briefed on any of this? What's behind this story? Because there's got to be more to it.
Sure. And I just want to say that I have stayed away from talking about it because I didn't want to politicize it in a very highly
council member, not
politicized time. And so that's why I haven't been vocal about talking about it. But this is what I think it demonstrates. That there's a lot of very vulnerable people in D.C., families that are on the edge, people that are making bad decisions, and children that fall through the cracks. And so it just speaks to how important it is that we strengthen our safety net. So we had a child that was in a shelter. We had a child that was in one of our public schools. We had people who probably could see that there was a family or a child in trouble. In all of those ways, we weren't able to grab that child, and that child fell through our safety net. And there are probably hundreds of little Relicious all over our city that need people to step up and speak up for
Well, that's
them.
the frustration here. I've been writing about that kind of a problem
You only got
almost
about a minute
20
left,
years.
Colby.
As we've been writing about inability to count votes
Yes.
for 40 years. When does this change?
Well, this is, I was struck when we had the tragedy of Bonita Jax and the children who died there. And that's when it really hit me that this government, and it's so much that the government has to be responsible for. And so we said then we have to be, the schools, we have to be able to know when kids aren't around, whether they're homeschooled in public charter schools or in DCPS, and have an immediate way to get the word out that there may be a problem.
And I'm afraid that's all the time we have. Muriel Bowser is the Democratic nominee for mayor of the District of Columbia. She's a member of the D.C. Council. She holds the seat representing Ward 4. She chairs the Committee on Economic Development, and of course she'll be participating in the general election in November.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you,
and
gentlemen. Thank
good
you
luck
very
to you.
much.
Thank you.
Colbert King is our guest analyst. He's a columnist for the Washington Post. Colby, good to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. I hope you come back sometime.
I hope you do. Tom Sherwood is our resident analyst. He's a reporter for NBC4 and a columnist for the current newspapers. Tom.
Very quickly, I Am Goff can send any questions he wants. He still owns the house here, even though he moved.
Oh, good, Tom. Always with the latest information. Thank you all for listening. I'm Kojo Nnamdi.